This is called Shooting Birds in Jacksonville. I'm gonna fix this just a little bit. I shot my daughter a bird after I dropped her off at La Villa Middle School last week. Middle finger, middle school, it seemed appropriate. Shock registered on her face, and I smiled broadly at her. A second passed, and she raised the middle finger back at me. She flipped me off as we both smiled. As I watched the silent laughter light on her face, through the closed door, through the rolled up window, she standing on the cold concrete sidewalk, me surrounded by glass and metal. Far from one another, we communicated. This isn't how it's supposed to be, this mother flipping you off as she drops you off, but nothing about our relationship is how it's supposed to be. It has never followed the script, the plan of how childhood and motherhood is supposed to play out, all cozy, full of snuggles, soft feather beds, and safety. Yet, it is perfect. Together, we have navigated Duval County courtrooms, caseworkers, child protective services. We jumped into picking the right school, migrating to the Magnet Arts program. That morning, as I nudged her out of our car, as she closed the door behind her and walked away, turning back for one last wave goodbye, that's when I shot her the bird. The hurt molted, and her face melted into love as the abrupt snap of the gesture settled to a shared understanding, a shared love we have for each other as we travel through this world full of dangers, together accepting where we are, who we are, her on the sidewalk, me in the car, driving her where she needs to be. I wasn't supposed to be her mother, but I am, and it's perfect. In my own 8th grade class many years ago, each girl had adopted an animal avatar, a talisman, a little pet we drew to draw power. We passed our notes back and forth, each signed with a round, rolling script, followed by a crude drawing of our animal. Mine was a simple seagull. I was obsessed with Jonathan Livingston Seagull, the protagonist of the popular novel by Richard Bach. My simple rendition of Jonathan replaced the Christian crucifix, letters JMJ for Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, framing the cross on my homework assignments and tests. The nuns had taught me to put that symbol on our school papers at the Catholic school I attended. Before Jonathan swooped in to replace the cross, if I were feeling exceptionally holy, I would also draw lines shooting from the cross like rays of sunshine. After Jonathan arrived, I pretended I didn't understand when the teacher flipped through our papers, shot me a sideward glance, and told me to leave the bird off my schoolwork. But in fact, I did understand. The Holy Spirit was always in a bird-like form, I wanted to say, but instead I stayed silent. I knew better in a Catholic school, in a southern town, than to make a peep. What are the messages birds carry to us? Or, as I suspect, is there no message other than that we should just accept and love them as birds, the creatures that they are, the creatures they were meant to be? Carrier pigeons, which is with a small roll of tightly wound paper tied expertly to their skinny legs, have something to tell us. A middle finger raised can convey many a message, can be received on different channels, can bind us or blind us. Cardinals and hummingbirds are not carriers of dead souls departed, winging us love from beyond the grave, as people claim. Owls and ospreys, doves and dodos are just birds, species we share this world with, not spirit animals here to serve us. The only message they have is that we humans are destroying their world, our world. A canary in the coal mine, a mockingbird purchased by a mother for a song. These animals do not belong to us. They belong to themselves. My daughter is a bird about to fly away. I can see her, but I can't always hear her. I can see her keeping secrets with her friends, her new boyfriend, her inside jokes about sex and drugs that she keeps from me. This little chick may grow up and fly away, though she'll always be my baby. Yet, she was never my baby. I missed all the little baby bird years, the years of feeding her worms, of changing her diapers, of the first steps and the first words. She flew into my life at age 7 and will fly away on her own too soon. I treasure the photos documenting her chubby 9-year-old junior Girl Scout years as I watch her transform from little bird to grown woman. It is in these last few weeks of her middle school, as I release her to the schoolyard, knowing that these years are flying away and can never be captured, that I raise a finger to the world, a world that makes me wonder if she'll be shot by a gun-toting hunter looking for beautiful feathers. This little joke, that I would shoot her a bird to say goodbye and have a good day, stops time. Here is the snapshot of that bird in flight. A raised finger in salute of her growing independence, a bird hanging in the air between us, causing her a sharp breath in, waking her to the moment. The car window is rolled up and slightly dirty, separating mother and daughter. The tree on the corner is bright in spring green. The girl is in her whole splattered jeans. Overhead, a small flock of geese pass, honking their way north. I want her to raise her voice, to raise her hand, to raise a ruckus. I want her to never be silent when the spirit moves her to speak. I want her animal power to protect her in this dangerous world. This is the time for young women to be heard. I want her to crow. Okay, so I won't be able to read all of this next piece to you. And it's related to, so it's a foster mom, adoptive mom, and also have been a legal guardian to a young woman with intellectual disabilities. And this is somewhat about her. It's called Abandoned to the System. There was a time I thought Maddie would end up a dead body, a violated corpse, left discarded in an abandoned house. I was watching a disaster unfold and there was nothing I could do about it. A 16-year-old, her mother, and her mother's boyfriend were living in the back of a U-Haul truck. The adults were selling Maddie's prescription drugs on the street and burning her with cigarettes to try to control her violent outbursts. When that didn't work, they would call the police and have her Baker acted. The Florida Baker Act allows a person to be involuntarily held in a mental health facility for 72 hours or until deemed no longer a danger to herself or others. I had called Child Protective Services, but they found reasons not to do anything. I was just waiting for her early demise. Isn't that what happens to a child who has never felt the security of a stable home, the anchor of attachment? Maddie has spent her entire life shuffling from one foster home to another. She would be sent back to her parents just to be removed and go into another foster home, then back to her parents. I got to know her when she was 6. I had just become a foster mom and I was caring for her 1-year-old sister. Because of her intellectual disability and traumatized background, Maddie was in therapeutic foster care and they would not put her with me and her baby sister, Hannah. 3 years later, in another term with the biological parents, another round of abuse, both girls came to live with me for a little over a year. Despite abuse allegations, the state returned them to the biological parents again. They were 5 and 10 at that point. It was over 5 years. 5 years went by before I saw them again. This time, Mom has left Dad after he beat up her father and put him in a coma. Mom lives under the bridge with her new boyfriend and the kids, or in a rundown, rent-by-the-week hotel off the expressway, or they couch surf with friends. Eventually, the 4 of them move in with boyfriend's mom into her 1-bedroom apartment. Mom and boyfriend let me step in and take the girls for weekends. One weekend, mom and boyfriend disappear. Monday comes and I have to go to work. I call DCF and report to a caseworker the abandonment of the girls. DCF does everything they can to keep girls with mom, to keep them off the state rolls. They agree to letting Hannah stay with me during the week to go to school if I'll drop her off with mom on the weekends. Maddie will stay with mom's boyfriend's mom. The state was supposed to be monitoring the family, making sure the girls got enrolled in school, but the moves from under the bridge to the hotels to the friends made that difficult. Within a few months, the DCF worker will blame me for the troubles DCF is having keeping up with the safety of the family. She doesn't like that the school I have Hannah in is calling to report signs of abuse. We didn't have this problem before you got involved, the caseworker threatens me. You seem to be the problem here. She doesn't like the pictures I was showing her of the cigarette burns on Maddie's arms. Nothing I can do about that, she tells me. Maddie says they are not burns. Clearly, they are cigarette burns. Maddie is going to end up dead. I can feel it. But I've been warned. If I keep pointing out the danger this child is in, they'll make sure they take Hannah and not let me have access to her. Hannah, the baby I've raised from age 1 to 5, now age 11. Hannah, she still has a chance. I have to keep quiet and wait. Finally, months later, on a crisp Friday in October, Maddie is being released from another Baker Act holding and needs a ride, a place to stay. She has refused to go back and live in the back of a U-Haul truck with mom and boyfriend. And she has nowhere to go until Sunday when she'll move in with a kind-hearted woman in her family. The state calls me. I say she can stay for the weekend. That is the weekend Maddie finally admits to me that she's being burned by cigarettes by her mom. I need a witness, so I take her to the CVS Minute Clinic. When Maddie tells the nurse that her mom burned her, the nurse wants nothing to do with us and refers us to the emergency room of the hospital. I remind her that she's required by law to report the abuse. When we get to the hospital, the police are called in, and Maddie stands by her story. It is her finally saving herself. Maddie sticks to her story, tells the truth, and I shake with pride and fear. The state shelters the 2 girls after 16 years of abuse and neglect. The parental rights will finally be terminated. I've been maintaining my foster care license all these years and continue taking care of the youngest daughter who we will eventually adopt. Maddie goes to a kinship care home with a family that wants to adopt her. Unfortunately, Maddie's violent behaviors, her long history of trauma and neglect are too much for anyone to live with for more than a couple of months. She bounces around to a couple of homes before being sent out of town to a full-service residential school on the east coast of Florida. At age 18, she has to leave there. I pick her up and take her back to Jacksonville, where she bounces from one group home to another, to her foster home that is not equipped to deal with her extreme behavior, until finally getting placed in a behaviorally focused group home. We have adopted Hannah and stay connected with Maddie. I have visited her in every home she's been in, have driven the 2.5 hours monthly to visit her in residential school, dropped everything to run to her home when she was trying to get Baker acted. The summer of 2020, when the pandemic was raging with no vaccines in sight, when police violence was being recorded and shared, where the country had to face the consequences of a society based on white supremacy, Maddie started on a rampage. She would call police, leave the group home in a tantrum, screaming for help and banging on neighborhood doors, begging for an ambulance or a police car to take her from the pain and anxiety that raced through her head. She got violent with the staff. At the day program, she wanted to run away, and in a fit of anger, she picked up a chair and smashed it through the plate glass window of the converted convenience store. On another day, she told the program staff she was leaving, and to prevent her from another unnecessary Baker Act, her behavior tech and I rushed to the storefront, getting there just in time to hurry her into one of our cars as two patrol cars pulled into the parking lot. My heart pounded as we drove her away, watching in the rearview mirror as the policemen got out of their cars. We took her to the nearby mall, a nearly abandoned, derelict mall suffering from economic flight many suburban malls are facing. We sat in the food court and talked her down. She was Baker acted again within 2 weeks.